In this video, we will be teaching you how to create a shipment from scratch. The first thing that I want to do is locate my two shipment folders. Now, for foreign to foreign, I recommend using outgoing. For export, obviously we want to use outgoing, but for incoming import shipments, I want to use the incoming shipments folder. Once we've selected the shipment folder that we'd like to use, then what we want to do is locate exactly where we want to create the shipment. So you'll notice here that you have the year, and then you have the methods, and then you have the months underneath each shipment method. I'll select May. And what I want to do here is just simply right click and select Add Shipments. Now, this is going to be a master house scenario. So what I want to do as soon as I add the master, I'd want to select this down arrow and select Create House Shipment. You'll notice that the system will automatically create the house shipment and attach it underneath what is the master. So when I'm looking at this on the left side, I see the master here and I see my house here. If I return to the master, and by the way, I can do that within the house by selecting this master button, it returns me straight to the master, whereby I can select this house and it'll take me right back to the house. So a couple of ways just to maneuver around and make things easier for you. The second thing that I want to do is I want to go down to the general tab at the master level and I want to start filling out the information that I have available to me. Now in this particular case, I am going to add a bill of lading number. However, it could be that you do not have a bill of lading number ready for you yet. So you would add that simply when you receive it. So I'm adding the bill of lading number, the booking number. I want to say that this particular shipment is set to sail in 2 days and it's going to take about 2 weeks to get to Venezuela. The commodities, I want to go ahead and enter those commodities in here. And I believe these are going to be cotton balls. Just 1 second here. So we're going to add this description, cotton balls, cotton rolls. And now I want to tab over to the entities. Now before I do that, notice that you do have a clause box here. So if there's anything that you want to enter here and you don't want to have to type it in all the time, you can use that clause box. I explained how to use that in the booking video. The next thing I want to do is work from left to right, and I want to select entities. Now we're talking about the master level here, and in this particular case, since we're talking about a master in a house, I want to select the entities that should go at the master level, and that would be Lilly and Associates China as the shipper and the forwarding agent. And then of course our destination agent would be Venezuela. The next tab is the routing tab. So in this particular case, we are going to fulfill a port-to-port service for a full container, vessel containerized. And we are loading from Shanghai using Hamburg Sud. And let's assume we have a vessel already tied in. And we have a vessel identification number. And our port of loading would be Puerto Cabello. We'll select Puerto Cabello. Now I've completed the first 3 tabs at the master level. With Magaya, these first 3 tabs, any information that's entered will also populate down to the house. So if we looked at the general, you'll notice that you have the general information. Here, I do not have a description of goods yet. We'll be adding that shortly. We have the entities, and you'll notice that the shipper and the consignee are blank. That is because we have the forwarding agent that came over for the master. However, we would put in the correct shipper and consignee here. And when I say correct, I mean the actual shipper and consignee. And in this case, that would be Dynamics Corporation as the consignee. And then, of course, we have the routing. The routing did populate entirely from the master. So, in summary, our house bill of lading, We have our booking number to copy it over, all of the information. We will be adding the description of goods shortly. We have our entities, and notice we have the actual shipper and the actual consignee at the house level. And then we have the routing, where we have the port to port, vessel containerized, port of loading, carrier information, and then our port of unloading. Now, because we are shipping a full container for a particular consignee, in other words, the container is the goods within the container are owned just by this consignee, nobody else, then we can go ahead and add a container at this particular level. So we're at the house level, we're about to add a container, and I want to select repack. Now, because I'm not concerned about the contents, I would not add the contents first and then repack, as is normally the case. This is a full container load, and we're not necessarily concerned with what's inside. We're not going to break the container down. So all I want to do here is select what type of container it is. And we said 45 cube. We can add whatever description we want. If you want to add the cotton rolls, I won't put the container number here simply because there is an option to validate container numbers, and that would prevent me from adding it here if it's incorrect. So I'll leave that blank for the time being, and then I can put in CO numbers, and I can do up to 2. If there's a third one, you can simply select the backslash and enter that in as such. The next thing I'll do is I want to add in the total weight of the container, okay, if I have that available to me at the time. All right, so basically what you're looking at here is the tare weight, and of course I would add the contained pieces, the weight of contained pieces, but because I don't have any contained pieces per se, this is a full container load, I would simply add the entire weight of the container at this point. All right, so I'll just say it's 14,520 pounds. I'll say next. And I'm not loading anything inside of this container. Again, we don't have the details, so I'll just select finish, and I have a container. Now, had this been a consolidation where I had numerous consignees and we were consolidating into one container, I would have repacked. I would have created a container and repacked the items at the master level. This is because we're going to have different commodities at each of the houses, and the only way we can repack everything entirely would be to do so at the master level. Now from here we want to go to the charges, and as you can see, the system automatically added certain charges because this is the way it's configured. Now in this particular case, at the master level, we only want to add in container related costs. This is because we don't want to add any cost that pertains specifically to the consignee at the shipment level, the master level. This is specifically for container shipment related costs. So in this case, we'll just say that we're going to prepay this. It's going to Hamburg Sud, and I want to select container. We're going to apply this by container. They're going to charge us $1,000 for this container. Now I want to task down to the house, and here I have my freight charge, so I'll just double click, and as you can see, there's charges automatically entered there. And we'll charge the container, and we're going to charge the customer $1,500. Here you'll add the container type, which should be available because we've added it previously, and I'll select OK. In this particular case, we're not adding a documentation fee. We're going to add a administration fee. So now I want to go add, and rather than select the freight charges, because we already have our freight charges added here, we want to just select income charge non-freight related, and we'll select origin administration. And that'll be $140. Now you'll notice that we're going to select this as collect. That means that the customer could pay overseas. You can see it's collect here. So once a container arrives, they would pay the agent, and the agent would release the container to them. I've basically finished my tasks here. I've completed all 4 of the tabs at the house level, and I want to return to my master level now. And now here, we want to generate the invoices for the liquidation process. So rather than adding these charges like we did here, in order to get an invoice out, what we could do is select the transactions, and I would basically select add invoice, and then select the consignee. So in this case it's Dynamics, and again we're going to bill them as of the shipment date. This also depends on the terms of the customer. So if it's when it's departed, I could put it on the 31st. I'm sorry, the 24th. I want to add my charges, so I can put freight charge, and I'll put in the $1,500. And this would be origin administration, and that would be 140. So what I've done differently in this particular case is that I've invoiced directly so that I may then provide this invoice to the customer. So here's our invoice in the transaction listing. If I want to see that invoice, I can select actions, go to document, and there's our invoice. So basically what we can do here is just send this over to the customer. Okay, so this is the invoice. Now I want to go back to the shipment, and you'll notice that since I added the invoice here, I do have now 2 posted charges, so I no longer need these particular charges open. So I've had my charges posted. I can return to my master. And now what will happen after this is that the shipment will be liquidated. Okay, and the way we liquidate that shipment is by returning to the master and selecting liquidation. The system will accumulate all charges added and summarize it at the bottom of the screen. Now this is an administrative process. This is done at the administrative level. The reviewer will review all charges, will review all supporting documentation, will review any transactions entered in, including the invoice that we just finished creating, and then create what's called a liquidation. Now, the reason why the liquidation will take place is, as you notice, there are still some charges that are open, the costs in particular. So they would go down to liquidation and complete the process of liquidating and generating the accounting. Now, to add additional documents, you'll notice here we have the bill of ladings, and we only have 2 bill of ladings, and they're both unrated. So what I want to do is I want to hop over to the documents, and you'll notice that you can add documents both at the master and at the house level. In this particular case, I just want to add a bill of lading, so I'll select documents, select bill of lading, and say OK. Here's my bill of lading, so I can double click, and you'll notice all of the information that I've entered is in the bill of lading. Same thing with the house. If I wanted to toggle down to the house and add a house bill of lading, simply select documents, select bill of lading, and the system will automatically recognize that this is a house bill of lading. There we go. And as you can see, it has a house bill of lading number. You can replace that number. And basically, once I've completed this particular shipment, then the idea would be to put this in transit. So once it sets out to Venezuela from China, I would place this in transit. The shipment would be liquidated, the accounting would be generated, and we are all complete.